I'm Rob Muldoon, founder of Tune Social LinkedIn ad agency, and previously 7 years employee of LinkedIn. While at LinkedIn, I worked there for 7 years, doing all things from campaign management to building some advanced LinkedIn ad strategies for some of LinkedIn ads' largest clients globally. I've seen it all. I've seen over 1,000 accounts, different strategies run both by client direct and agencies, and have a clear idea of what works and what doesn't work with LinkedIn ads. It's a complex platform. It's something that you need to spend a lot of time on to get right, and it's different for everybody. So experimentation is key to that. And I'm here today to help you through your experimentation journey with LinkedIn ads. So what does the journey of this course look like? Well, this course consists of 6 sections, all based around experimentation with LinkedIn ads, but hopefully I'll be able to give you some tips and insights relating to how to use the platform throughout. Objective 1 is about how to build a robust experimentation framework, which is extremely important to make sure that you have robust experiments that you can quantify the results from. Objective 2 is about the options you have for audience experimentations and the ways you can use the LinkedIn platform to test different audiences within your ideal customer profile. Objective 3 is about the options you have for platform experimentation. So once you have your audience nailed down, what are the other things you can play with and manipulate to make sure you get the best results possible from LinkedIn. Objective 4 is about, once you've identified what's working within LinkedIn, how do you optimize it to extract the most out of the campaigns, and then how do you measure it to make sure that it's successful. Objective 5 is about scaling and iterating successful experiments. So once you've identified that your experiments are successful, how do you approach scaling them, and how can you make sure that you maximize the successful experiment as best as possible across your LinkedIn ad account. And objective 6 is about tracking and reporting to different stakeholders. So you, after this course, will become very fluent in LinkedIn, the metrics that work and how to manipulate the platform, but that may be not what the stakeholders care about. So I'm going to teach you how to use what you've learned in your experiments and translate that to the language that different stakeholders across your business will use so that your experiments have maximum impact and you can show your work. Lesson 1, the importance of experimentation with LinkedIn ads. In this lesson, we want to learn a little bit about LinkedIn ads from a general point of view. We want to understand the functionality of the LinkedIn platform. We want to learn a little bit more about the professional context of LinkedIn and how the audience behaves on LinkedIn. And also we want to learn about the mindset you need to have when you're thinking about using LinkedIn ads. And it's very much so the mindset of a scientist. So first, the functionality and complexity of LinkedIn. So the functionality of LinkedIn is that it gives you many different options to build your campaigns and to think about how you're going to reach your audience. There's no plug and play option for building a LinkedIn campaign or building a LinkedIn campaign around your audience. You really need to have done the experimentation to understand how LinkedIn is going to work for you. There are kind of 4 main categories to think about when you are thinking about your building your LinkedIn campaigns. Number 1 is targeting an audience, which in my opinion is the most important factor to think about about your LinkedIn campaigns. So when you're considering you're targeting an audience, you need to think about things like their company size, the industry that company is in, maybe things like the growth rate of that company. How is it interacting in the industry? Is it growing or in decline? Secondary to that, you need to think about the person within that company. So what job title they're in, what's their function, what skills do they have, and how do they operate within their organization. Then you have kind of complementary targeting options, things like groups, things like interest, which add a little bit more context around the LinkedIn audience that you're trying to target. And then you have also some tactics around user experience, age, gender, things like that. Near as powerful as the others for B2B marketing. The second most important factor you need to consider about LinkedIn is the ads formats and variations you use. This is important because this is what, once you've defined your audience and once you know who you're targeting, you now need to understand how to connect with the audience and what is the method that your audience likes to be connected in. So this could be different ad formats, whether it's static, video, document ads, the specs of those ads, so whether they're horizontal, vertical, square, and then also the copy, creative, and CTA. So the small enhancements you can make to really make your ads and your message relevant to your target audience. The next thing to consider is your objectives and your bidding. So once you have your targeting nailed down, you know you're reaching the right people, and then you have your messaging and your creative and your ad formats nailed down, you know that you're reaching them in a way that connects with them. You can then optimize the platform a little bit further to think about, and then the way to do that is through using different objectives and different bidding models. And then finally, once you've mastered the first three aspects in terms of targeting, ad formats and objectives, you then need to think about your retargeting options. So these are the options that come available to you the more you use the LinkedIn ad platform. So things like the web visitors you drive from LinkedIn, the video viewers and the engagers that have been already engaging with your content, and how you build those into further campaigns to really get the last bit of value from LinkedIn ads. The second thing to consider is B2B advertising is complex, and so is the audience. So LinkedIn is made up of professionals from very different walks of life, and often B2B products speak to niches, some niches better than they speak to other niches. It's not, as I say again, it's not really a plug and play option with B2B advertising. Every LinkedIn account I've been in is different. They use different things to their advantage, and that's mainly down to how the audience is so complex. So things you need to consider: different company sizes, goals, different performance measurements and metrics internally for people in different organizations. They have different pressures and challenges depending on the culture of the company or depending on the stage the company is at. They have different goals and aspirations depending on the career they're in and the career stage they're at. People have different buying motivations. Is it to make their job easier? Is it for growth? Is it for many different reasons? And also they have different stakeholders to be dealing with. In smaller companies, for example, they're dealing with people who are right up in it, making decisions on the business. But in terms of larger companies, they may be only dealing with cross-functional partners or stakeholders that are head of a department. So these are all the things that you need to consider about the complexity of the B2B audience that's on LinkedIn. And finally, to gain success on LinkedIn, you need to think in a scientific way. You need to change your mindset to kind of challenge everything and challenge the common path. The common thing I've seen on LinkedIn is that usually the advertisers who do things slightly different or have used experimentation to get the edge on LinkedIn are the ones that are the most successful. Basically, they found their own way of doing it through experimentation. As I say, every LinkedIn account is different, so you need to forge your own path and kind of maybe go against the grain of the path that the LinkedIn Campaign Manager tool lays out for you. So my advice is to be skeptical, challenge the norm, challenge some of the definitions of some of the functionality on LinkedIn, run experiments, measure the data from those experiments, learn and optimize from those measurements, and then take the success that you've got from those experiments and scale it. To really think about this in more detail, I want you to take 5 minutes to think about the audience that you want to target. So think about what I said before, put yourself in their shoes and try to think about the company that they work at. What size is that company? What industry it's in? How many people do they talk to daily about the specific problem? How many people do they need to talk to about starting a new project? The challenges they have daily, the pressures, where are those pressures coming from, and why you should care about their business. So to recap, in this lesson, we learned about the functionality of LinkedIn, why you should be skeptical of some of that functionality. You learned about the order of importance of things you need to consider about LinkedIn. Number 1 being targeting. Number 2 being the ads and the way you communicate. Number 3 being the functionality in terms of the objectives you choose and the bidding you choose. And number 4 being the retargeting options that come available the more you use LinkedIn. You've also learned about the complexity of the LinkedIn audience and how they buy. And finally, you've now learned that you need to adopt the mindset of a scientist to be successful on LinkedIn.